Dan and Amy, is it possible to have a conversation about immigration or a conversation with any person of the left that doesn't ultimately devolve into the charge of racism? That's what Larry the Cable Guy said on Fox and Friends yesterday.
But I got to tell you, here's the thing that stinks about it. It's not like it used to be. You used to be able to say, you know what, I like Ronald Reagan. And somebody go, well, I don't think. But now, if you pick somebody, they want to beat you up. They want to give you death threats. It's like nobody's civil. Ever since social media came along, everybody's a jerk. Yeah. Everybody's an idiot.
It's anonymous. So
if you say, you know, I kind of like Trump. I kind of like some of the things he says, you know, and I think I'm going to vote for Trump. Yeah. You racist. Yeah, and you're always a racist. No matter what. If they don't agree with you, no matter what you say, they throw that out like it's, you know, and it's so frustrating. But, you know, Hillary will be the end of the country.
Look, quick aside there. Get her done.
Yeah, but you don't know. Should be
no,
the country.
but seriously.
Now I got to go do my Prilosec commercial.
Yeah, and so this is what we can expect to hear in response to whatever Trump says about immigration this afternoon, because it's what we heard yesterday from Amy Jacobson.
You just love this.
Anderson Cooper, Amy Jacobson.
And when I said it, you were in the room and your eyes were rolling and your hands were flailing like, oh my God. And then you told me to pack up my stuff in the office because it's over.
Well,
yeah, I had a good run. Good 6.5 years.
It was bad. You had your moments.
It was interesting. It was never boring.
So I had Amy bring in her Powder Puff jersey from Iowa.
I was a nose guard in 87.
Yeah, boy, they were thin back then, the nose guards, the front line at Iowa. So she's got her Jacobson 44 jersey, and we're going to go ahead and burn it in effigy in studio today, just as Colin Kaepernick jerseys are being burned in effigy, after she responded to our friend, CNN reporter that was in studio yesterday
Randy
with us.
Kay.
Randy Kay.
The Randy Kay. I love her.
The Randy Kay.
No,
okay.
she was great, and she was fair and balanced, and she wrote a wonderful piece.
It was a nice piece. We got some great reactions from our friends in the listening audience, many of whom were profiled on the segment that they did on Anderson Cooper Show last night. Steve from Naperville called in, and the question was, one thing you want Trump to say in his speech today, and Steve from Naperville provided this answer, and Amy Jacobson provided this response.
They're here, and they're going to get, if they're going to be allowed to stay, they ought to be speaking English in the first place.
How does that make you feel? That's not a reality, and that makes me feel as if a lot of Republicans that are supporting Donald Trump are a little bit racist. You can't force somebody to speak English.
You can't. You want people to speak English if they want to have a better life and a productive life here in America. They should be speaking English or slowly learn how to speak English, but you can't force somebody to speak English. And even if they know English, sometimes they're going to use Spanish or they're going to use Greek or they're going to use Polish or they're going to use Russian.
I don't think anybody
It sounded like a dictatorship when I heard him say that we're going to demand everybody speak English.
This is not a new idea that you assimilate into this country. In fact, it's the oldest idea going that you assimilate into the country, particularly America. This concept of a melting pot, right? That's the definition of assimilation. Mm-hmm. And so it's not about monitoring someone speaking. It's about saying, so you come here with your family and the kids are going to go to school and they're going to learn English. And you can speak whatever you want in your home, in the neighborhood, with your relatives, whatever. This isn't about a big brother. It's about saying this is what we should encourage people to do as the right of entry, just like the citizenship test they have to take and pass to learn this country's history. This is part of the right to entry threshold you have to clear so that you're best positioned for success in this country. You're coming here for a better life. Part of that better life is being able to communicate in the language of commerce and, frankly, everyday interaction. So it's not cultural imperialism, which is the hysteria the left applies to this idea of English only, speaking English, learning English. And so to suggest that Trump supporters are a little bit racist or sound a little bit racist because they want people to be positioned for success.
No, they want that part of Donald Trump's immigration plan.
Well, but that strikes me as very much like the leftist welfare state policies. This is to help you, and it destroys you. It's very sentimental. We want to be respectful of people, so I'm not going to require anything. I'm not going to hold you to any standards. I'm not going to say this is better than that. Learning English is just as good as not learning English. No, it's not. Learning English is better than not learning English in terms of your chances for success in this country, the success you're coming to this country to find. Why is that in controversy? I don't see why that's in controversy.
Well, I got an email saying, Amy, don't tell me you really think it's racist to speak English. You're just trying to get a rise out of the callers, right, Roma? And people are going to kick my blank just because I know you. Thanks, Jacobson.
So one of our texters is going to get beat up just because people know he knows you.
Yeah.
Because
I went out to dinner with him and a few other listeners.
And you're speaking English.
See, yo hablo español también.
It's the words you use. It's not the language you speak, perhaps.
Well, it said, don't tell me you really think it's racist to speak English. No, I don't think it's racist to speak English. Of course not. I think it's racist to force people to speak English at all times.
Yeah. Roman Moroni murdered everything in his wake, including the English language. Take that, Piscopo. Nobody does a Roman Moroni like I do.
Yeah.
Ralph and Rantoul, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, Amy, it's really quite the dumb argument to say that it's racist to ask people to learn to speak English. And it's when you add those extra words, speak English at all times. You know, we're not North Korea. We don't have monitors in the homes making sure that people are speaking a certain language. You want to speak a language that's not English, feel free, do it. But, you know, all the extra cost, all the extra ridiculousness of printing forms, government forms in 15, 20, 30 different languages, it adds to all of our costs. When my grandparents came here from what they used to call the old country, one of the sets came from Denmark, the other set came from Poland.
Oh, the Danes.
They, of course, knew that they were going to have to learn English. Why? Because they're in America. It's, I think, actually quite presumptuous on immigrants' parts to think that the country to which they immigrate should conform to their old ways rather than they learn the language of the country. Wake up. And it's so juvenile to throw out this, oh, it's a racist thing. If, you know, I feel like people that don't have a good argument throw that out because they just think that that's going to make people recoil. It doesn't. Think harder.
Thanks, Ralph. And, you know, to Ralph's point about the language and the monitors, you know, I mean, I use Latin all the time.
Of course you do.
So
of course. I mean, took Latin 4 years in high school, I'm sure, just like my grandma did. Yeah.
I use Latin phrases ad nauseum.
Okay. Oh,
See what I did there?
I see what you did.
All right.
The man who started it all.
Steve from Naperville gets his rebuttal time. Steve, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. Hey, I thought you might want a little background about me. I'm a physician at Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm chief of gastroenterology there. And I see people there that speak no English at all. About 1/3 of the patients there have not spoken a word of English. They might be able to respond to who their name is, but nothing beyond that. It becomes very difficult for these people to get their own medical care. They have difficulty communicating. We may have an interpreter that's present. We do a great job of that. We've got great interpreters that are at Mount Sinai. But the patients do not get the same experience of life because they just cannot get the full understanding when they understand the language and can communicate with the nuance.
Yeah.
This is a complicated issue, however. Many of these people are Hispanic. They've come to this country. They're almost all legal residents. But because of the machismo of the Hispanic culture, which is the expression that the man must be responsible for the family, they will be working for years in factories or businesses, and they will put their family first. They will put their kids through college, and they won't speak a lick of English. They end up bringing their children with them to clinics so that they can speak to someone there, and they bring their own interpreter along their children. But their experience now is that they're essentially become little prisoners on 26th Street, where everybody else speaks Spanish, but they have no ability to get around. So my comment that people should speak English is because I see the harm that occurs when their dedication to their family exceeds what should have been done for themselves to make themselves able to function independently in their society.
Thanks for the call, Steve. I mean, yeah, so that provides a lot more context to it, and it's excellent points he makes up and down. And look, so that's the point. That's the sentimentality that leads to barbaric policy that actually hurt the intended beneficiary. You could say the same thing about bilingual education instead of English immersion, where you're actually retarding the intellectual development of the child by catering to their native language rather than immersing them in English. You can maintain the language, to speak it at home, and but that is not as effective as putting them on a path to be a fluent English speaker. So is that more sensitive to put them in a worse position out of your own kind of congratulatory, I'm so open-minded and multicultural? You're not doing them any help.
We had a kid from Ukraine, from an orphanage, and all he spoke was Ukrainian and Russian. And with 1 year, they put him straight into just regular schooling, not ESL.
Right.
And he has learned. So it's amazing. He's a different kid now. He speaks fluent English. It's awesome. And I'm happy for him.
And how shameful! I mean, it's not just bilingual education. It's not like that's the only problem in schools. Right. But how shameful is our K through 12 system in so many places in this country, notably in Chicago and many other places around Illinois too, where are foreign languages mainly taught in high school.
Oh, it's awful.
Despite the fact we've known for 30 years that the best place to teach foreign languages where kids are most facile and able to pick up languages, of course, is in grade school.
They're sponges. Their
Correct.
brains are little sponges.
So why don't we do what we know to be true? And that's a question about so many policy areas. Why don't we do what we know to be true? Because there's a political constituency to be served, because there's demagoguery to be had to maintain political power. And it's the case on immigration like it is on so many other issues, including education. Cindy in Libertyville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yes. Good morning, guys. I wanted to let you know, Amy, that there are other countries that do force the immigrants of whatever nationality to be fluent. And the one country that I know of specifically is Denmark. And you have to be fluent in both speaking and in writing Danish within 2 years. Otherwise, your visa and any opportunity of immigrating to Denmark is removed. I do want to add an asterisk here. Now that the Syrians are flooding into Denmark, the same as Sweden and all over, it'll be interesting if they hold that criteria to the Syrians to be fluent in Danish. But I think it also adds to when people are not fluent in the language, it also adds to the cultural divide that persists, especially within this country. So it's so critically important that they learn English so that they do assimilate to our culture and to our country.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks for the call, Cindy. Appreciate it. We'll pick this up on the other side.